Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the Operating Procedures series of videos where we discuss backup and restore methods, ticket systems, documentation, and change management. In Part 4, Change Management discusses how to manage changes within your IT organization so that you can avoid unplanned disruption. For those who are going to take the A+ exam, there are practice questions at the end of the video. If you have not already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Within an organization, change is necessary as your environment and technology changes. Even small changes can detrimentally affect applications and services that run on workstations and servers, how users access data, or how users work. For example, if you upgrade an operating system, the upgrade can cause unforeseen problems that may affect the applications and services running on the computer. Not to mention, a failure or interruption of the upgrade process can cause the operating system boot problems. Even security patches can have big impact. If you change how an account authenticates, could cause users not to be able to access application, services, or data. If you change the IP address of a server, users may not be able to connect to a server and services running on the server. Changing a firewall configuration or modifying switch ports can make computers, servers, and services unreachable. Change management refers to the structured approach organizations use to transition individual teams and the organization as a whole from the current state to a desired future state. Change management is critical for organizations to effectively navigate and adapt to the evolving business environment. It involves managing the people side of change to ensure successful adoption and implementation of new processes, technology, systems, and organizational initiatives. By taking a structured approach to change, organizations can minimize disruption, mitigate risk, maximize adoption, and achieve their desired outcomes. Every organization should establish change management policies and processes. Of course, for immature organizations, a change process can be difficult to implement since it's sometimes hard to change corporate culture. The policy and procedures should specify how changes will be requested, how change requests are documented and reviewed, who will review the changes, who will approve the changes, and what are the requirements for a rollback plan and test plan. A rollback plan is a contingency strategy that outlines steps to revert back to the previous state or undo changes implemented as part of a change initiative if unforeseen issues arise or if the change does not achieve the desired outcomes. Having a well-defined rollback plan is essential for mitigating risks associated with change initiatives and ensuring business continuity in the event of unexpected challenges or setbacks. You should always have a way to revert your changes. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Some changes are difficult to revert. Make sure you have backups. Consider performing a backup right before you make the change. Backups can be used to perform a restore. For virtual machines or servers, consider taking a snapshot. If the change does not go well, it's easy to revert the system before the changes were made. Sandbox testing refers to a controlled and isolated testing environment where changes, updates, or new configurations are evaluated and validated before being deployed to the production environment. The term sandbox is borrowed from the concept of child sandbox, where you can play and experiment safely without affecting the surrounding environment. A sandbox tends to be an isolated environment that provides segregated and controlled environment separate from the production system. If a change is made to the test system in the sandbox environment, the change should not impact the production environment, ongoing operations, and data. A sandbox environment will allow the testing and validation of the changes, allow for user acceptance testing, be used for training and familiarization, and to test rollback. Change management is a team effort that involves different parts of the organization. It might include various information technology teams, the business customers that use the technology, software, or service, and the organization sponsor that is responsible for the cost, budget, or profit of the change. A Change Advisory Board, or CAB, is a formal group responsible for reviewing, evaluating, and approving or rejecting proposed changes to a project, system, process, or organization. Note, a Change Control Board, or CCB, primarily handles changes within a project, while a CAB covers all the changes related to the service lifecycle, including emergency changes. The primary role of the Change Control Board is to ensure that changes are assessed comprehensively, aligned with business objectives, and managed effectively to minimize risks and disruptions. The change management process should help avoid downtime, confusion, and mistakes. Nothing should be changed without a formal process, which starts with a request form. Usually these change forms are done on an online system and will usually be partially automated. The process and form should be transparent, show the stages of the process, the approvals, the results of the change, and if the rollback plan was used and completed. The steps in a change request are: identify the change that must be made. Create a change request that specifies the purpose of the change. Identify the scope of the change. Schedule the date and time of when the change will occur. You'll need to take into account of activities and other change requests when determining when to make the changes. Specify the systems or services that are affected or impacted. Analyze the risks associated with the change. Have the request approved by the change board. Implement the change, which may include communicating with or training users and recording the date and time of the change. Communicating with users could happen before the change is implemented or immediately after the change is implemented. Get end-user acceptance, including testing the software, system, or service to see if the change was successful and the software, system, and service is running as expected. You may perform the testing, or the owner or user of the system may perform the testing. For example, I may upgrade a server that is running the company accounting system. I will make sure that the computer boots properly and the normal programs and services start as expected. I would have to get one of the accountants that use the accounting system to test the accounting program. If the changes causes problems, you must address the problem, including considering using the rollback plan to roll back the change. When you're creating and managing a change request, you should determine a risk value such as low, medium, and high. Remember, even minor changes will always have a little risk. Try to think of the box and look at everything that the system software configuration touches directly and indirectly. Also, you should ask, what is the risk if the change is not made, such as system is vulnerable or could cause disruption or unexpected downtime? When starting with an organization, you should ask about the change control process. If you're interviewing for a job, you should try to work it into the interview so that you can show that you're a mature IT person who's looking at the big picture and you want to avoid disruption and downtime. You probably won't be a superstar in the company if you perform proper change requests. However, you can also lose your job quickly by doing an unauthorized change, especially if the change causes unexpected problems. When doing changes in a technical environment, you eventually have unexpected problems from performing a change when sometimes will not be immediately obvious after the change. The change control process is to protect you in case something goes wrong. However, make sure that you have good backups, a good backup plan, you communicate well, and you test after the change has been implemented. Question: you're following your change management process to upgrade the operating system of a server. You got approval for the change. What is the next step? Answer: implement the upgrade. Question: you have submitted a change request to upgrade an operating system of a server. Which of the following must be completed before the change is approved? Answer: perform a risk analysis. Question: you get approval from the Change Advisory Board for a server upgrade and you implement the change. Which of the following should be done next? Answer: document the date and time of change. Question: the Change Advisory Board did not approve a change due to a lack of alternative actions if the change fails. Which of the following should you update before you request approval again? Answer: rollback plan. Question: which of the following defines the extent of a change? Answer: scope. Question: you have a change request approved by the CAB. Which of the following is most likely the next step in the change process? Answer: communicate to stakeholders. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, within an organization, change is necessary as your environment and technology changes. Even small changes could have detrimental effect applications and services that run on workstations and servers, how users access data, or how users work. Change management refers to the structured approach organizations use to transition individuals, teams, and the organization as a whole from the current state to desired future state. Every organization should establish change management policies and processes. A rollback plan is a continuing strategy that outlines steps to revert back to the previous state or undo changes implemented as part of a change initiative if unforeseen issues arise or if the change does not achieve the desired outcomes. Sandbox testing refers to the controlled and isolated testing environment where changes, updates, or new configurations are evaluated and validated before being deployed to the production environment. A Change Advisory Board, or CAB, is a formal group responsible for reviewing, evaluating, and approving or rejecting proposed changes to a project, system, process, or organization. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be Operational Procedures, Part 5, Common Safety Procedures. If you have not already, don't forget to subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Thank you.